Hi there, it's Neil Salvage and welcome back to another bite-sized session of training for the NVQ Level 2s. Today we're more focused on the actual assessment and the process of NVQ assessing. So this is a kind of guide for both the learner and possibly their employers to look at to understand how the process works. And also I've titled this assessment with a small t. Due to the nature it is an assessment, it's not training, but there is an expectation within OSAT, which is on-site assessment and training, that some training elements are considered. So it's quite jumbled and you can see all the terminology that's gone in there, but hopefully this little presentation will help steer you through that. So a common thing that happens I find is people ask me how I want to do the course. How long does the course take? What's involved? Well, the course is, it's not a course, it's assessment. So if you took the comparison of learning how to drive, when you start driving, you find an instructor and they give you lessons. They teach you all the fundamentals to drive a car safely, understand the laws of the road, etc. So this is where learners should be getting training either within their companies or seeking it through external parties, or manufacturers offer training, trade associations offer training, to know the principles of what is expected. And hopefully by the end of that process, when you do come forward for assessment, your assessor is like your driving examiner. They're the person you don't know that's sitting next to you, watching you how you perform. And that's where the assessment decisions are made. So hopefully you go from being a learner driver to a past and competent technician. Everybody can see that. And this will also endorse your NVQ Level 2 for your CSCS card. So I've put a route map together for just to kind of try and explain the process. So we start off with the learner sends their application in, and we have a set application that's available through me, and the contact details will come up at the end of the presentation. From that, when they're logged with me, we have a process called profiling, where the application is looked at between myself, if it's come to me, and a peer assessor, and we look at it and see what the competence is and what the person who's applying already knows and understands. We could identify at this point that there could be weaknesses or failings that they might struggle on the full assessment. So we do make a decision at this point to maybe, if the learner isn't fully competent, reject is a harsh word, but we would signpost for further training so they can come back and have some knowledge of what they're expected to achieve. Yeah. But ultimately, we'd hope that the learner is competent, as in confidence in their earlier training, that they can join the scheme, and they would have to either go onto a waiting list, or depending on the flow of learners going through, they might get accepted straight on to go forward for induction. So the next phase of the NVQ process is the actual assessment. So this is where the learner, with their assessor, will start putting plans in place of what they're going to do, how they're going to capture evidence. They could use workbook, they use a lot of on-site observations. So that is working with the assessor. So the learner will be delegated or asked to complete tasks or perform tasks and prepare themselves for visits so that the assessor can watch them. Yeah. So the assessor will make reference and review these as the assessment process goes on. So we have a standard document at CITB for doing that. We have an external, or I call him external, he's external to the assessor, but he's internal to the quality assurance process from CITB. So we have a gentleman called John Parks who oversees that, and he will do interim visits to see that the processes are all working. And this kind of all ties the three of us together, the learner, the IQA and the assessor. And this will revolve around maybe 2, 3, possibly 4 times during the assessment process, not always involving the IQA though, predominantly the assessor and the learner working together. Eventually we come to a point where a portfolio is complete. All the evidence has been gained. The evidence is normally stored and the portfolio is built by the assessor. So it's the learner's work, but the assessor will compile that to the standard format that's expected by the IQA. And then from there, the IQA will complete a summative sample, which is basically double checking that everything's all right. They're not assessing it because he's not an assessor in our sector, but he ensures that the processes of assessment have been fulfilled and the portfolio is to the required standard. And at this point, the IQA can then make the full certificate claim, which ultimately will be available from the EQA, which is the External Quality Advisor or Assurer, and that certificate is then issued through CITB to the learner. And also CITB keep the centre log of all the learners that are achieved, because this is where the CSCS card also gets their information from, because they're linked through CITB and through NSAC, which is the National Specialist Accreditation Centre. So assessors will use multiple lines of evidence, a lot of observation, coming out watching, because that's what our level 2s are predominantly doing, demonstrating practical product activity. Yeah. They might be asked to go away and do a bit of study and research. If there's an element that they're not 100% sure on or just lacking a bit of knowledge, they might go away and do a bit of reading up. We like to do recorded interviews, discussions with the learners, because there's a lot of knowledge that we need to gain from them. So seeing the learner do the work is good, but also reinforcing it by their understanding of why they're doing it, how they're doing it, when they do it, and what they're doing. That's quite key. And sometimes we'll call on document evidence as well. So learners might want to produce copies of risk assessments, method statements, drawings, specifications, sign-off sheets. That's quite a common one that we see where work is completed. So that's evidence that we can all capture into the portfolio and provides the evidence. Yeah. We can make the portfolio digital, which we've recently moved towards. So all the evidence is filed electronically and available to our next person, who's our IQA, John Parks, would then review the portfolio to see that it complies to standards. And this is also made available to our EQA for them to cross-check should they do an audit and should they call that portfolio for summative sampling by the awarding body. Yeah. And this is all overseen by the Ofqual process, so quite well regulated and checked every year under the Ofqual requirements. So that keeps us all in check and keeps the system hopefully working well and providing a good standard of service, which is what we hope everybody will achieve from this qualification. So continuing with the bite-size training that we're putting out, we're looking at putting legislation and official guidance, which will be issue 3 of our bite-size training. That's going to be coming out on Monday. So this is just an interim clip that I'll put out for everybody. And then following on, we're going to look at maintaining safe working practices. So that hopefully beginning of June, we get that one up and running for everybody. In the meantime, if you do want to contact me, here's my details. I'm on the emails, website, I'm on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and by all means give me a call if you want to have a chat. So thanks for looking in, thanks for checking this out. Hopefully it's been helpful for you. Any questions, please give us a call, and look forward to seeing you on the next issue. Thank you.